This is Brad Rudin, Director of Agronomy Tech Services with South Dakota Wheat Growers, out in the field today with a Tech Tips update. Wanted to talk today a little bit about a couple corn diseases that we are starting to see out in our fields. Goss's wilt, which has been around for a month or so that we've really been able to see the symptoms very strikingly, and also stalk rots. I'm standing in front of a corn plot right here that looks very, very healthy. And as we approach this corn a little bit closer, we can see that this variety is doing pretty well. There's a little bit of Goss's wilt starting to appear. We can look at a damaged leaf right here that has a little bit of a symptom starting in Goss's wilt, and a leaf up here that also has a similar type symptom. Goss's wilt appears to be only appearing in this particular field where we have a physical damage to the ear, in this case from a hailstorm that came through a little bit earlier this year. I've now backed up just a little bit from this plot where we can take a look across this plot and scan down to the next variety that's in this demonstration, and you can see a very, very striking difference with this next variety. This variety of corn was damaged extremely severely by Goss's wilt throughout the season here, and we'll take a look at this particular disease and then assess stalk rots, which have also come into this variety, likely as a secondary damage after the Goss's wilt. I've now taken the liberty of walking out into this cornfield a ways and taking a look at some plants down the corn rows. The plant that we're looking at right here has a classic symptom of Goss's wilt that came in earlier this year. If we take a look at this corn plant right here by my thumb, you'll see this long lesion that is translucent to light. If you look at it very carefully, you will find a classic symptom of Goss's wilt, and that is these freckles that are in this area. Bacterial lesions like this run down the length of the leaf, are often translucent to light if you would hold them up to the light, and often will have a shiny surface on some of the area of the lesion where the bacterial ooze has come out overnight from onto the surface of the leaf and then dried on that surface of the leaf. Down in this area we see the freckles down here. This disease is also called freckles in wilt, and you can very easily see the freckles that are happening along the edge of this large lesion in this particular corn plant. I've now moved down the row a little bit further and find another plant that has a classic Goss's wilt lesion on this leaf. We can take a look at this leaf. We'll see this long linear lesion running down the length of the leaf veins. You can also see again the freckles near the bottom of this particular lesion. Goss's wilt is a bacterial disease that is residue-borne. Management of Goss's wilt includes variety selection for varieties that are tolerant to Goss's wilt, and also then taking a look at residue management. So rotation is a key issue with Goss's wilt. Corn on corn or corn under irrigation, especially with corn on corn under irrigation, would be a high risk factor for Goss's wilt, and something where we really need to take a look at varietal management and some of our cultural practices to be able to control this disease. Fungicides will not be effective for control of this particular disease. We've now moved a little lower down into the canopy to get underneath the corn leaves, and if we take a look down this row, we'll see some stalks that actually have started to show lodging. I believe this is a secondary disease that came into this field after the Goss's wilt, but one of the things we want to do is assess this field for stalk standability and stalk strength. One of the classic tests that we do for stalk strength is what we call a push test. We'll simply take a plant, tip it over about 45 degrees and let it snap back and see if it will come back to vertical. That plant passed the test very easily. We'll move down to this small plant right here, which is we can see is dead most of the way up. If I push that plant, it simply broke over on me, and that would indicate that that is a plant that is suffering from severe stalk rot. I'll go down the row here and show several of these plants. That plant broke. The next one was able to snap back pretty easily. The next one, again, no problem with snapping back. This one, no problem with snapping back. But we'll hit one right here that I'm sure will break right over. And again, with this plant here that has a partial infection in it, it still snaps back fairly easily. If I move down the row a little bit further, I can easily find plants that do break over. If we break these plants open, we'll find that these plants died from a disease called Fusarium stalk rot. There will be a little bit of punky pith inside of these and a slight pink coloration. Fusarium stalk rot, again, is probably a secondary disease that happened when these plants were damaged because of the gosses wilt and weakened, and then this disease was able to come up through the roots and get up to the lower plant, infecting that plant. This would be a variety, if I was looking at this particular field, that I would want to consider for early harvest. Right now, many of these plants are still standing fairly tall, but if we do have a severe windstorm at all that would come through, all these weak plants are likely to tip over, and the ears that are on them would simply become unharvestable. If you'd like to find out more information about variety selection to be able to get ahead of many of these diseases, talk to your local wheat growers agronomist at any of our agronomy locations.